Hello and welcome back to the Brilliant People podcast by executive search firm Assertitude. I'm your host, Linnea Jungnelius. What happens when you take a brand builder from Gatorade, a digital disruptor from Sports Illustrated, and a startup founder and hand him the keys to one of the most tradition-bound sports institutions in the world? You get reinvention and you get Jeff Price. Jeff is the Chief Commercial and Philanthropy Officer at the PGA of America, who is quietly reshaping the commercial blueprint for golf. He leads a $1 billion-plus commercial and media portfolio, turning the Ryder Cup into a global platform, securing landmark deals like ESPN Plus, and consistently driving 80% partnership renewals. This is a conversation about building what's next in sports and media without losing sight, of course, of what makes sports matter in the first place: pursuit, presence, joy, and human connection. Jeff, welcome to the show.
It's so great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Jeff, let's dive into early career. When you first set out, you applied to all 30 NBA teams and got rejected by every single one. What did that moment crystallize for you about ambition and about persistence early on as you set out to start a career?
So, our friends at ESPN have 30 for 30. For me, it was 30 for 30, complete rejection. Coming out of Bates, where I had been a college football player, what I recognized pretty quickly was my passion for evolving a career as an athlete into a business career in sports. What I didn't have was a network coming out of Bates that could open doors. And so I worked for a year, coached a bit, worked in education, and then applied to UMass in the Mark McCormick Sport Management program. And that was really transformational for me, both educationally, training, developing, but also building a network of people and mentors like Professor Glenn Wong and others that helped to shape my belief that there was going to be an opportunity. And UMass had interviews that happened on campus. And by the end of October of that first year, I knew I was going to do an internship at the NBA, where again, all 30 NBA teams had said, no thanks, don't bother. And so finding a path, having a belief in yourself when you get rejected, but also understanding that there's work that you need to do to set yourself up for success.
So I'm hearing either seek out or accept mentors that you have in your network because they're great guideposts for you. Again, don't give up, do the work to keep going. Now, could you quickly walk us through how you got to where you are today and the defining lesson from each chapter?
I'll try and do this quickly, but I was really fortunate coming out of that internship at the NBA to be offered a job. The first job I was actually offered was in the licensing department. And I had a chance to spend some time with a gentleman by the name of Todd Lewicki, who currently is a great executive in sports out in Seattle running the Kraken. He was at the Oakland Arena with the Warriors at the time, and I spent a day with him. And he was great to say, Jeff, you're a marketer at heart. I'm not sure why you're accepting a job in licensing. I don't think that's the path. Just say no. And I said, Todd, no one's ever said no to an NBA offer coming out of the internship. He's like, well, there's always a first. And he kind of gave me the confidence to say no. And then fortunately, 3 weeks later, I was given the opportunity to get into what is now the Teambo Group, the team marketing and services organization, and being around people like David Stern, whose bit of advice is you're going to create success off the things you don't see coming. How you respond to adversity, how you deal with challenges that weren't on your 5-year plan or 3-year plan or 1-year plan is going to define what your career is like. And I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And then I think one of the things I learned early on at the MBA is I worked really hard at the opportunity that I was given, and it created new opportunities. And the folks at Gatorade reached out and invited me to become a part of their sports marketing team. And that was really a 4-year immersion in one of the iconic brands in all of sports and really one of the great brands in the world. And at the time, it was not owned by Pepsi as it is today, but it was part of Quaker Oats, and they were a very traditional brand-centric company. And so really understanding the essence of brand marketing and consumer insights and what moves businesses and consumers to want to engage. When Sue Wellington, who ran the marketing group, was such an amazing thought leader in that space. And so walking away from that, having a real understanding of how to help build brands.
Was there a nugget there that somebody else should take away?
Well, I think it starts at the consumer insight level, and that carries all the way through to today. What is it that is motivating the consumer to want to engage? As I think about sports today, you've got consumers my age, Gen X, baby boomers, millennials, who are traditional sports fans. But you've got a new generation of fans who are consuming things very, very differently. And if we don't understand what are those insights, what are the things that are going to motivate a younger audience to want to be a part of the world in which we live and work and play, it's critically important. Having the opportunity to then move to MasterCard, a challenger brand that was really making a big dive into sports and helping them to sign the first MLB deal that they ever did, and really connected with consumers, being a part of the Priceless campaign as it launched, and really weaving that into sports. MasterCard had been a very utilitarian brand, and to be able to take and see and help to transform as part of a great team that into an emotional brand, that there had to be, the concept of Priceless was very simple.
And you think that emotive part is something that every company probably should think about, is like, what's the emotional connection to your consumer? It doesn't matter what business you're in.
There's always an efficacy to the product that you have, and then you have to have an emotional connection. And the storytelling and how you get at the balance of that is truly one of the important things that every brand has to think about.
Yeah, it's sort of this like tension between like inform and inspire, I think.
That's exactly right. And you think about the greatest brands, the ones that break through over time, they are able to do both.
Very true. And then MasterCard from there.
There, I went into the startup world, and we failed miserably. It was really about a company called Trackus, following data and sports information and all that you see in sports today with electronic tracking and devices. We had engineers who were leading that 20 years before there was really a marketplace for it. And we also hit the kind of deflating of the internet boom, and then 9/11 occurred, and we were basically out of money. And to be able to experience that and recognize, where did we make our mistakes? And I don't think we had enough humility, to be honest. I think we thought that we were better than we were. I think we thought that we could make a market versus understanding that the market was going to have to come to us. And those are lessons that I've tried to carry with me. Take a step back and kind of look at the landscape, understand the essence of the product, the brand that you're with. What relevance does it have? What connectivity does it have? And then how do you build a business off that? We were so focused on the product, we didn't necessarily think about the markets we were trying to sell to or the impact that the consumer was going to face. And we failed miserably, but a lot of lessons learned.
So many, right? And it's interesting because I think if you are an entrepreneur or you're a CEO stepping in and taking control of a business for the first time, you have to almost have a sense of grandiosity and a bit of ego beyond who you are in order to push through, right? And then balance that against a bit of the humility that you're just talking about.
You're 100% right. And at the end of the day, it was a terrific experience, but a humbling one.
So is the practical takeaway from that really around having a plan, but remaining more open and flexible and looking up more at your environment?
I think it's that, and it's having the ability as a leadership team to question each other. And are we grounded in a path that is doable?
And when you reflect back on all your earlier chapters, the ones you just walked us through, lots of great lessons there, but was there one lesson that took you the longest to learn personally, and what would that be?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, as a leader, it took me too long to understand that empowering teams and leading teams is different than instructing teams. The idea of empowering and leading is a very inspirational way to go at a business. Instructing and feeling like you have to be a part of every decision is not great leadership. And I think that took me probably more time than anything to lead, is to think about the team. How do you put the best players in the best position to succeed? Then empower them and help them and break through the challenges and the things that they need to support. Help set strategy, help to make sure that we're going to hit the financials that are necessary, but empower those individuals on your team to be as successful both personally and professionally as possible.
High stakes calls are part of your daily life, daily decisions for any leader. What are the decision-making frameworks that you use as you get into making tough calls and business decisions?
I'm a big believer in a lot of research, going back to consumer insights, but I always like to very simply start with a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? And having a team be able to really consolidate a view of business opportunity around a SWOT and the exercise of making that be really meaningful and creating healthy dialogue, analysis as you dive into the business opportunity, I found to be a great starting point. I really think it can galvanize folks with clarity. And purpose and clarity is something that's really important. The best organizations are very clear on what their North Stars are. They're very clear on focus. And if you're able to lead that evolution where strategy turns into great execution, great success can follow.
100%. We had Ram Charan on the podcast a few episodes ago, and he said, focus is the new strategy. Yeah. So you guys are in total alignment there. Jeff, when you joined the PGA, you stepped into a newly created role. What specific strategic gap did you see, and what was your first big move there?
So when Pete Bavacqua, who's now the athletic director at Notre Dame, then the CEO of the PGA of America, created the role, there was kind of a disparate business organization. It's a wonderful organization. We represent 33,000 men and women who are the grassroots tangible connection to the game, our PGA of America golf professionals. But we're also a major sports organization with things like the Ryder Cup and the PGA Championship and the KPMG Women's PGA Championship that fuel the mission of the PGA of America. That mission needed to have kind of an economic reinvention. We needed a better brand and storytelling. And so, to Pete's credit, he and our team worked on a long-term strategic plan. And within the commercial enterprise, I'd say there were three things that were really important. Find amazing partners who would work with us to fuel the economic engine that we need, whether those were our media partners like NBC and CBS and ESPN, or our amazing brand partners that tell the story. I think about a brand like Corbridge, who has embraced the PGA of America and our pros. But so there was an economic evolution, there was a storytelling and brand evolution that needed to happen. And then I think there was the opportunity to rethink how we played with the industry. Because not only are big brands, but the golf industry, our pros are connected to all of the original equipment manufacturers, the Titleists, the TaylorMades, the Callaways, et cetera. We run the PGA Show every year, the biggest gathering of the golf industry every January. And so how did we have a more relevant relationship with those companies? And I think if there's anything that I've learned over the course of time, and our next CEO, Seth Waugh, really instilled this in me and our team, certainly during COVID, said we need to be the best partner to all of those partners that we work with. Because when you know that there are challenges and you come not necessarily with the CFO or the lawyer, but come with the team that is thinking about the partner's business and how do we help you as you help us, that sense of partnership has led to amazing renewal rates and exponential growth in revenue and deals with CBS and ESPN who help us with the PGA Championship to tell a story of that major every May.
Every business has partnerships, so I love that that's one of the key things that you focused on, because whether you're a CEO or a chief commercial officer or anywhere else, who are your partners? Where do they stand today? And then how can we make them better would be three great questions to ask yourself if you're in those roles.
Having been on the other side, I would always be really frustrated when a salesperson would walk in with a generic proposal to MasterCard or to Gatorade and say, here's what we want you to do. I much more enjoyed conversations where people would come in and ask questions. Where is MasterCard trying to go? You've gotten into baseball. are teams important in the context of that? If so, what are the levers that you want to play to be meaningfully engaged? Those type of questions that can lead to true partnership are critically important on both sides. And I think that's one of the things we pride our team in, is that we don't cookie cutter anything. T-Mobile, another great example, they wanted to make a transformational impact in golf. They have helped to do that with us. At the grassroots level, at the championship level, they're going to be sponsoring Breakfast at Beth, an all-cast that we're bringing to the Ryder Cup. Those all came through great conversations and really an understanding of their 5 pillars of what they wanted to get out of golf and what the essence of the PGA of America. I think it is about conversation and engagement and curiosity and questions that leads to the best partnerships.
Always comes back to listening.
It does. It really does.
And really being very tailored and bespoke as a result of that. And I think the challenge there is, how do you systematize and scale while staying very personal and aligned with whoever you work with? Do you have any thoughts on that sort of question between scaling and personalization?
It's a great question. I think each entity, and we treat how we go to market with our friends at Ryder Cup Europe for the Ryder Cup differently than how we approach the PGA of America. And that happened over time because we recognize that for the Ryder Cup, this is a global property, and we have a partner across the pond that we need to walk, arm in arm to build this together. And so we took a very different approach, a collaborative approach, whereas for the PGA of America, we control our assets, and we then, partnered with Legends to go to market in a way that we can have as many engaging conversations as possible.
I want to dive deeper into that. So separating the Ryder Cup rights was one of your very bold strategic moves too. Talk to me about that decision and how that came about, and what opportunities did it unlock, and what kind of friction did you have to navigate?
Sure. Well, we're obviously coming up on the 100th anniversary of the Ryder Cup in 2027. An incredible global competition that has been a great competition for decades. But really, prior to my arriving in 2014, there was a lot of work done to create a singular brand for the Ryder Cup, and some great work that was done to build this logo that is now very much an iconic global brand. And so that set us up to then think, okay, now that we aren't having 2 separate logos and kind of 2 separate constructs of a business, because we control it in the United States and Ryder Cup Europe controls it in Europe, we created a single identity. From that, and then we began together to embark on a worldwide Ryder Cup program with amazing global partners, companies like Aon and Citi and Capgemini, and our friends at DP World, and the folks that are at Rolex, and amazing storytelling that they do. And everything that we have been able to do, signing SAP as the 7th partner to come on board, those partners identified with a global sports property that took us 10 years to get to the point that we're at today, where the property side of this and the collaboration that we have with Europe is leading us to match the intensity of the competition on the field of play. And to the credit of the group, everyone has put the larger opportunity and the importance of being custodians of this amazing property. We were looking to enhance and grow the brand. And so as many challenges as we may have had, I think I'm more proud of the collaboration and cooperation that we've been able to drive to build an amazing program, to take the media and the storytelling of the Ryder Cup, certainly digitally, socially, et cetera, to an entirely new level.
What is the next level, and how have you enhanced and grown the brand commercially?
So just 3 things that we're doing this year. Obviously, I talked about the corporate partner program and the worldwide program, which has been tremendous. We are going to have, hosted by Colin Jost, Breakfast at Bethpage. It is being produced by Omaha Productions, which does Peyton and Eli's Monday Night Football alt-cast. Imagine that is going to meet College Game Day for the Ryder Cup first tee. There's nothing in sport quite like the first tee of the Ryder Cup. We want to tell that story. Golf will be part of it, but it really is about the environment. And so creating an entirely different way to storytell the Ryder Cup to a younger audience, to engage consumers who are thinking about the future. We've also recognized that major sporting events aren't just about what happens at the stadium, or in this case at Bethpage Black. We have created Ryder Cup Live, which will activate New York City. We're going to have a huge fan event in Rockefeller Center. And for fans at home that want to be able to unlock that, we've got home kits for parties and viewing and et cetera. We are going to be creating Rao's, which is the hardest restaurant in New York to get into. You can't get a reservation. We're doing Rao's at the Ryder Cup. Again, that cultural relevance and the celebrity and the athletes that will be going through that will be tremendous. And so, we were very fortunate. The city that has been built out at Bethpage is amazing, that balances the great history with looking towards the future and continuing to try and innovate.
I love the focus on experience. And all those, by the way, sound amazing, incredible experiences that caters to all of your different groups that pay attention and follow the Ryder Cup and care about this great organization, from the small moments that you can have at home, right?
Yes.
To these bigger moments you described here right in New York City. So it's interesting to see people think outside the box, outside the stadium. And
I think and we've always thought about the Ryder Cup on that tier one of global sports property. And if you look at global sports properties, U.S. Open tennis takes over New York, and it is truly something that New Yorkers look forward to every year. We recognize that for the Ryder Cup to continue that ascension to the premier global sports landscape, we had to move beyond the golf course.
The ESPN streaming deal, I want to talk about that too. How did that deal unfold, and what did it teach you about leading and executing at pace?
We had been with Turner Sports for a couple of decades. When our window came up, we went through the process, and again, back to relationships. Burke Magnus, who's the president of content and all things ESPN, is a fellow UMass grad. And I'll never forget calling Burke at 8:30 on Saturday and said, Burke, this, I think, is 25 years in the making, but we have an opportunity to do business together and with the PGA Championship. And ESPN had just taken an interest in golf. What was interesting is we were ready. It's very easy today to think about streaming and ESPN Plus as a logical part of a sports media deal. At the time, we were on the front edge of that. And to get our team, our leadership group, our board, our constituents excited, ESPN obviously is an amazing brand, but we were making a pretty important bet on the success of ESPN Plus, the success of streaming, the innovation that they've helped to bring to our championship and covering things wire to wire and giving viewers alternative ways to experience it has been transformational. And having been one of the first movers into the space, we recognized some of the challenges that we would face, and we partnered together with ESPN and CBS to make sure the viewer understood the transition. And at the end of the day, the economics were right, the programming strategy was right, and two partners that have worked incredibly well together to take our championship to a higher level. But we made an early bet and one of the first movers to dive into streaming, and really thankful that we did.
All those things have to come together to make that leap, right? And I think that speaks to your early relationship and how, again, those strategic partnerships pay off in unexpected ways over time.
We were able to move very quickly. If you're not prepared, it's hard to move things.
Yeah.
And fortunately, 2025, looking back, it was the right decision.
So we moved to streaming. We have social. Where's this all going?
We're spending a lot of time thinking about AI. And in the context of our association, we believe that coaching relationship between a golfer and their PGA of America golf professional is going to be paramount. But those coaches that understand how AI can better assist the relationship that they build is something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about. For our operators, it's going to change the way you think about water and fertilizers and all of the things that they do in running a facility. How can we help them to understand and be better and save time and focus? And then we run lots of businesses. We have GMs as PGA of America golf professionals all across the industry. How are their businesses going to be impacted? So We are spending a lot of time thinking about AI. Our CTO, Kevin Scott, has put kind of a mandate that we all need to understand the implications in our areas and be prepared to act upon it. Because I think much like those changes from the internet boom that I lived through and saw the boom and the bust to the evolution of social and certainly streaming, now AI, I think, is the next area of opportunity and risk, and you got to go after the opportunity.
Yeah, it may be the biggest tech boom I think we've ever seen.
It certainly is trending in that direction.
Exactly. Look, the golf ecosystem is highly fragmented and uniquely fragmented with roughly 15,500 courses in the US alone. In your role, how do you think strategically about the PGA's role in aligning the sport? And what insights could you share with other sports leaders that maybe have to think about alignment in their role?
So I think it's critically important that our 33,000 men and women are at the tangible connection to the recreational golfer. Our pros are the direct connection to them on an everyday basis. So we have a good sense of where the industry is heading, what is happening. They were part of the success story in COVID. We helped to lead the industry within, I think, 3 months. Every golf course across the country had the opportunity to reopen. And we have seen a boom in golf at the recreational level that has sustained. It wasn't just a COVID bump and a fall off. It has continued. A big part of that was because of the work that our PGA of America golf professionals did. So we are the voice of the recreational golfer. And so for us, that means collaborating. And we want it to be for everyone. And that's part of the work that we've been doing, whether you're a veteran or a kid or from an underrepresented community. Golf can be a sport for everyone, not just for the elite that it used to be. And that's been an important change. And I think that's something that we've helped to lead.
Really interesting shift. And I think this aspect, it is for everyone, but it is also personalized. I'm curious your perspective on the specific opportunities as it relates to segmentation in your world.
So we've done a lot of analysis. And I'll start with just the work that the NGF has done. The boom in golf at the green grass level has been great. And there is almost 28 million folks that played golf in a green grass environment last year. There's also a very large group, if you take the total 47, that played off course. And what we're recognizing is the sweet spot of golfers are those that do both, that are engaging in the off course environment, whether that's a simulator or at Topgolf or pick the spot where you can go. We've thought a lot about the emerging growth that's come with youth, that's come with women, that's come with folks from diverse communities who didn't necessarily think golf was for them. How do we open those doors? And so as we've worked through our segmentation modeling, making sure that invitation to everyone is one that is relevant. If you extend the invitation and someone back to the idea of the importance of an experience, if that experience doesn't match the invitation, that's going to create consumer discontent. What we've got to make sure and try to do is make sure that invitation is followed up with a great experience that's going to keep you coming back. Because we know when someone hits a golf shot, I can't wait till you get a club in your hand and you hit one in the air and you're like, wow, that feeling is amazing.
Yeah.
That if we can make sure that the experience around that is a welcoming one, golf is going to continue to thrive.
You're touching the sense of it's about creating places or a place where people belong.
Yes. We've really tried to think about community, right? There are communities of golfers. We're trying to find relevant ways to make sure those communities are not just a moment in time, but there's something that you feel like you belong to.
You talked about AI, you talked about segmentation. Now, if we put the two together, what are the AI-driven personalization tools and the most promising innovations that you're seeing?
It's still early on. We've got a lot of work to do. Let's just say that. Golf has a ton of data. And that data exists from how you hit a golf ball to who you are as a golfer to what experiences you're looking to have. So I think there's not one particular thing I'd point to, but I do believe that this idea of golf being welcoming for everyone and AI helping to make that experience you have on a journey with a PGA of America golf professional is going to be enhanced. It never displaces or replaces the PGA of America professional. It enhances his or her ability to engage with you and to help deliver you on a journey for a lifetime.
We're going to have to revisit that conversation in 6 months, every quarter, really.
Every quarter, I think we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we're all on that journey. Everybody's recognizing its importance to experimenting. If you're not experimenting or pushing your team to think about it critically in their role, in their function, in their world, I think then you're really missing it.
Anyone who says they figured it out, I think is overreaching. But to challenge, to your point, your teams to really think about how to apply it is the moment that we're at. Test and try things and see what works and fail quickly and move on and learn. And I think that's critical in any kind of transformational time. It's understand the risks and mitigate against those risks, but really focus on where does the opportunity create something that can be better than it is today.
Back to the good SWOT analysis, right?
Yes.
Let's talk more about teams. As an executive search firm, I'm always so curious about how you recruited the best talent, built the best teams. So as you think about the commercial teams that you've assembled over time, what are the consistent principles and philosophies that underpin your approach to building high-performing teams?
I think number one, and this is a lesson over time, who you are as a human being matters. Are you going to come to this team in a way that it's not about me, it's about we? And that we construct is really important for the teams that I've been a part of and have had the opportunity to lead. And so that kind of is a gating question. If it's all about just you, good luck. But if it's about a we, that then opens up the conversation. Do you have the talent in the specific area that we're looking for to be able to make us better? Next question, right? Is the talent going to match the opportunity? If that is the case, then what is your passion and belief in how you can step into the organization and make a difference? And are you willing to take risks and push and not just kind of conform to the norm? What ways can we innovate? What ways can we together grow? And looking for that growth mentality. And then I think it's the ability to have diverse thought and opinion. And as you step into a team and a leadership group, are we willing to challenge each other? Are we going to be open and listen? Are we going to be willing to push where we think change needs to occur? And I think if you put all of those things through the filters, you end up with really talented people who put team above self, who put the end result above any individual accolades. And they're focused on, certainly in the commercial side, that driving revenue and margin is important, but being on brand and on strategy, you have to do both. You can't just drive revenue that drives the brand off a cliff. You've got to be thinking about the right partners, landing those right partners, doing the right deals, and then executing against them. And if you're going to bring that to the teams that I've been able to lead, you're probably going to have a pretty good experience.
Yeah. How do you get into the weeds of the we mentality versus the I? I'm talking like actual assessment tools, specific questions you like to ask, the patterns or trends. How do you uncover those?
There are obviously a number of great assessment tools that can be done, and organizations like yours are great at applying those as a filter. I like to let people tell stories, and I like to ask questions about where did you have success and where were there failures? And oftentimes, when you ask the probing question and then sit back and listen, people will either lean in and get the concept of we, or they start talking about themselves and not necessarily the teams or the goals and the things that they've been a part of and delivered. And so I love to use the resources of our people team, the resources to filter. We do Spark interviews and assessments and other very pragmatic, practical ways to narrow down a large group. But when it comes down to the last 6 conversations that we're going to have for a role, I really like to hear the individual tell their story and be faced with questions that they may not anticipate or situation role playing. How do they respond to the pressure of having to tell stories? And does that of success and failure? And how does that lead to the mindset that, hey, this is going to be a we player?
That's a really good framework. What about commercial leadership today? What's important as you think about the chief commercial officer role in sports in general? Are there critical things that you think people need to have today, that people need to be focused on developing?
Certainly, the ability to analyze data is something that continues to be more and more important every day. There's more data being thrown at us than ever before. And how do you synthesize that data? How do you understand, going back to the consumer insights, what's an insight that's actionable, that's grounded, that's validated, and what could be something that's a false positive? The understanding of how to analyze and apply data is certainly something that I'm trying to get better at myself. I think that's one. I think the evolving nature of the landscape of consumer engagement and the importance that social media plays in all of that for brands is also really important. How do you have success? How are you authentically engaged in social media? But also, it can fall off pretty badly pretty quickly. So understanding how you engage successfully for the brand that you're with, how do you engage your consumers, and how do you build trust and loyalty with them, really critically important. And then I think thinking about revenue generation and how do you get to sustainable revenue growth.
That's great insight. And look, we have a lot of CEOs, presidents who tune in and listen to the podcast. What advice would you have for them to really get the most out of their commercial function and empower their CROs?
If you are engaging with your commercial team, inspire them first. Inspire them to believe in the story, in the brand. I believe that if you've inspired the team to believe in the mission, to believe in what you're a part of is something larger, that then will inspire the team to go and build the partnerships that we've been discussing, that are deep, that are meaningful, that are two-way, and will also drive the revenue that is critically important. If it's a transactional relationship, you're going to just see a rotation of companies and brands that come in and out, and it becomes a very transactional environment rather than one that's building this kind of groundswell of love and passion and engagement among fans, among brands, and among sports organizations. And I think if I'm giving advice to CEOs, you're going to have to focus on the revenue and you've got to focus on the profitability. But if you're not inspiring that team with the why, you're probably missing out.
It's almost like we're back to the beginning where we started around inspiring, not instructing.
Yes, it's exactly right.
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate. In 35 years in this industry, I don't feel like I've ever had a job. If you can look back and think about that arc and think about how are you delivering something for an organization and the purpose, and you do so successfully on the commercial front, it's probably going to be pretty rewarding.
And we can all do that for somebody else.
Correct.
The people around us.
People around us, inspire them.
Jeff, what's the biggest question you're wrestling with today as a leader?
Spending a lot of time thinking about how, on the AI front and engaging with our members, how does our commercial team help our 33,000 to improve their lives, improve their livelihood, and be in a position to be successful. This is a 109-year organization. We're a perpetual institution, but our members have new needs and new desires, and we've got to be able to meet those. And so what are we doing from the commercial team to help with that? And then how do we just keep our team motivated? How do we take a deep breath and then re-engage, coming off what will be, for many of us, the biggest sporting platform that we've ever been a part of. And I do think about that letdown that can come after, if a team wins a Super Bowl or an NBA championship, how do you then get ready for what's next? And so I'm thinking a lot about that and what is going to motivate the team to stay engaged, to stay focused, and coming off what will be for many of us just an incredible experience.
Those are great questions in the true essence of the word great. I think that's a really fascinating insight about performance. Performance is these sprints and these sort of moments of intensity followed by recharge. And I think about that both as a team, to your point, and as an organization. You have this peak moment where you have to perform. People are working really hard. I run a bit and I run a marathon. You get like the post-marathon blues. It's a thing.
It's a real thing. You've really got to think about that.
So I think about that also, like you as an individual. What are the ways that you take deep breaths for yourself so that you can sustain momentum? Are there non-negotiables in your routine or your daily life that allow you to show up?
So I'd say there's three things that I try and focus on. My family, I have two kids, one who just went off to college, one who's a junior in high school. My wife and I have put a lot into them growing up. I'd say the idea that I can invest family time and be present when I'm with them and doing the things that we love to do together is really important. And I think I've learned that. I wish I'd maybe realized it when they were 2 and 3, and over time put that time in a meaningful way. The second piece for me is the ability to have time to reflect and building in windows of time where I can kind of get out of the day-to-day grind and think about the future.
And what does like reflective time look like for you? Is it nature? Is it journaling? Is it just quiet time at home? Or
a lot of times, honestly, it's taking our dog for a walk and having that hour of just thinking and not being on the phone, not looking at email, but being able to think about things that aren't necessarily on my to-do list for today. And so I truly enjoy those walks and those moments in time that give me a chance to kind of think differently.
Yeah, we all need processing time, right? There's this subconscious in there that's always going, and you almost have to like create stillness for it to show up.
You do.
I want to talk about also what you input into your mind. So what are the podcasts, the books, the sources of inspiration that you take in so that you continue to stay sharp, you continue learning and inspired?
Having been in the sports industry for as long as I've been, there are some go-to sources that every day I am engaged with. My friends at Sports Business Journal do an amazing job, and Abe Madkour is one of the great thought leaders in the industry. And whether it's his morning podcast or kind of what is done with all of their analysis of the industry and trends and things that are happening, one of their former folks went over to Puck, and everything that John Oran puts out from a media perspective, I find to be incredibly powerful. And being able to bring that information back into our organization, because I'm trying to filter it. Because part of a job of a leader is to see what's reported, but not believe everything that's reported.
Yeah.
There's only you've got to be able to validate and have those trusted sources.
Check out for the hallucinations.
Exactly. And then each day I just try and look at what is trending and what are the things that are happening in the world that I need to go and pay attention to. And so that is something that I used to consume news in the traditional framework. And what I find myself now looking at is whether it's through LinkedIn or X or other sources of information, what are the important stories and trends of the day? And then kind of bespoke going off to learn and to discover. And that's, again, having that time to be able to do that, both within the sports industry, but more as a global citizen, what's happening and what's trending. And so I try to be thoughtful every day with some go-to immediate sources that keep me in our industry. But then more broadly, what is trending? If there's something great from Vanity Fair that I should dive into using social and search and AI to determine, all right, where should I spend my time? And what should I be reading? What should I be listening to and learning? And trying to do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, those are great sources to derive the patterns from. Who are you following closely right now that's shaping what's next in sport and paying attention to?
Because of the trend in private equity in sport, I'm paying a lot of attention right now to those that are making significant investments into our industry and the why. You know, I grew up a Celtics fan, so following and trying to learn, why did Bill Chisholm decide that investing and owning the Celtics was the right next step in a very storied career? And what was that beyond being a fellow Celtics fan that he saw the economics of sport to be a valuable investment vehicle? I spend a lot of time following in the media space who are the leaders that are setting the tone for the future, whether that's the folks at Amazon or Netflix or Apple, or certainly our partners at NBC and CBS, following those that are setting the agenda for where the media landscape is going, really, really important, because each one of those companies has a different outlook. And our media deals are not up for quite a bit, but understanding the evolution of that landscape is really important for the seat that I sit in. So I like to follow the people that are making things happen.
And look, who is the single most brilliant leader you've worked with and why?
Oh, great question. And I've got to give it a two-part answer. Coming into the NBA and being a part of an organization run by David Stern, truly one of the most dynamic leaders, I think, in all of sport. And ironically, my dentist growing up was his college roommate. So there was a connection. And I'm not sure David knew my name, but he said New Hampshire.
I know they say 6 degrees of separation, but
David would call me New Hampshire boy. And I remember I was in on a Saturday and said to me, leaned into my little cube and said, "Good to see you here on Saturday, because if you weren't here, I wouldn't invite you back tomorrow." But David's vision, his ability to see what basketball could be, the global nature of the sport, the dream team, everything that was done, certainly an incredibly dynamic leader. And as a boss and somebody that I worked for, the years that I had with Seth Waugh as our CEO were incredibly helpful to me in maybe shaping a more well-rounded approach to leadership. Seth cares deeply about the people that he works with. I think certainly helped me to become a better leader by learning from his style and his approach. And so I'd say David and Seth would be my two. So I couldn't give you one, but I think it's a twosome.
that's good enough. And look, I think the through line there is caring deeply. And that informs everything that you do and everything about who you are.
If you care deeply about mission, about what it is that you're doing, you're just fundamentally going to do a better job at it.
Yeah. And feel like you've never worked a day in your life.
You just haven't end up hopefully with a great career, but never had a job in your life.
That's it. Jeff, I'm happy to say we're almost at the end and you've made it. And we love to wrap up our podcast with a quick lightning round. If you could please fill in the blanks.
Certainly. Let's go.
Let's go. Purpose is.
Purpose is a mission. It's about delivering something that's larger than any individual goal or accomplishment.
Leadership is.
Leadership is inspiring and finding a way to create focus, passion, and collaboration that creates great results and great teamwork.
Great answer. Brilliant leaders are.
Brilliant leaders are able to see the moment, but also look in and have a vision for where the future can and should go, and find a way from where you are to where you want to be to lead organizations.
Brilliant commercial leaders are.
Brilliant commercial leaders are curious. They are conversational. And they listen.
success is?
Success is believing that the work that you're doing is meaningful, and hopefully both on a personal, professional, and socio level, you've created something that has deep meaning.
I perform at my best when?
I perform at my best when I'm leading a team that cares deeply about the work that they're doing.
That's amazing. Jeff, this conversation was packed with exactly the kind of insights that I love. Really sharp commercial lessons, great leadership advice, forethought into the future, and reflections on the past. So thank you so much for making time for this conversation, and we'd love to have you back anytime.
Thanks so much for your time, for the amazing questions, and would love to come back at any time.
Many thanks again to Jeff Price for joining us on the Brilliant People podcast, and thank you to our incredible community of brilliant listeners. I'm Linnea Jungnelius. If today's episode hit home, subscribe or drop us a rating. It means a lot and helps us keep these brilliant conversations coming. And don't forget to follow Certitude on LinkedIn, where we share more insights on leadership, transformation, and building world-class teams. Until next time, stay brilliant at work and keep your eyes on the ball.